Hello everyone, and welcome to the February edition of Support Techspert Thursdays. Today's presentation is Configure and Recover Db2 Purescale as a Qlik replicate source endpoint with Bill Steinagel. Bill, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what we're going to be talking about today?
My name is Bill Steinagel. I'm a customer support engineer. I've been at Qlik for the last 3 years, and I've been in the IT industry for about 27.
All right, and what are we going to be talking about today?
Today, we're going to talk about Qlik Replicate and the accessing of a Db2 Purescale environment, set up a replicate endpoint, how to recover, some troubleshooting tips, and some takeaways and things you should remember.
Bill, can you start by summarizing for us what is Qlik Replicate and how does it work?
Yeah, Qlik Replicate is a database management tool that is configured so you can move data from your source to your target. The main component of Replicate is the CDC component, which is the change data capture. That's the component that allows you real-time data access from your source and target environments, where we're able to capture all of your changes coming into your source, and we're able to replicate that to your target environments, like your tests, QA, doing sanitation of the data.
So basically, Qlik Replicate allows you to keep all of your data live and up to date, regardless of where the data sources are.
Correct. Yeah, and that's a very cost-effective methodology. You don't have to run loads from your production to your test and other environments, and you keep your data at real time. So what image you have in your source environment, you're going to have in your target.
So how does it work?
Sure. These are the types of systems that we access. This is the integration piece. And then these are your different landing zones. And then these are the applications that read from the landing zones. This piece right here, here's all your source environment. This is where the CDC solution comes in. Depending on the database or the environment you're reading from, what Replicate does is we actually go against the log files that are defined to your source environment. As an example, with DB2, you have transaction logs. With Oracle, you have redo logs. What Replicate does and does very effectively is we're able to read the actual transactions that are being defined and updated on your source and process those through the CDC solution to your target. That's where you read the inserts, updates, and deletes, and that's how we keep track of the information.
I know you're about to demonstrate this, but how will this work specifically with Db2 Purescale?
Replicate will call that API, the DB2 log reader agent, that actually gets the data from the transaction log, pulls it out, goes through the CDC process, and gets updated into your target. And we have intermediate tables that keep track of that. Also, we have something that's called sorter files that are defined, and they're basically the cached events before they're committed to the target.
So it's keeping track of the data all the way along the process.
Correct, yes.
Today we're going to be talking about Purescale. What exactly is Purescale? How is that different from regular DB2?
Purescale is an add-on that IBM decided to do for more power, more availability, more uptime, and the availability to have multiple database instances across the clustered environment. And the DB2 Purescale, he's basically like the control cop for all DB2 instances that are underneath, and they're called members.
How many members can a Purescale environment have?
The max number of members, which are actually just DB2 instances, is 128. That's the max the Purescale environment will handle.
Okay, so that's a cluster of 128 possible DB2.
Correct. Yep. And as you can see in the image here, the primary and secondary, CF stands for caching facility. So this is like the brain of Purescale right here. He keeps track of everything that's happening in all the members. These are your DB2 instances, and these are the applications coming in reading from DB2. On the back side, Purescale is keeping track of this information and what's going on in all the members. Because it's clustered environment, you have a primary and secondary. So if one goes down, you have a backup.
Now, is Purescale supportability with Qlik Replicate, is that a new feature?
Yes. So we added Purescale in 6.6 of Replicate. It's not much different than your regular standard DB2 LUW that you're accessing. It's got the add-on feature where he's got the caching facility. He can have multiple members, whereas your DB2, which could be in the clusters as well, but you don't have the Purescale piece on top that keeps track of everything.
Okay, so yeah, you could set up individual sources as DB2, but you're just connecting to each individual instance. Okay.
Correct.
All right. Can you show us an example of how to set this up to replicate data?
Oh, sure. I'm running the April 2020 6.6 release of Replicate, and the current release is 7.0.
Okay.
I'm just one release back.
And so what are you going to do first?
So what I'd like to show you is set up a basic endpoint accessing a DB2 member that's in a Purescale environment.
All right. Where do we start?
I already have a task running. We can close that. You want to do manage endpoints, new endpoint connection.
Give it a name.
And this is going to be your source. We don't have Db2 Purescale listed, so you want to make sure you select the Db2 for LUW. You have different connection methods. You can either use a DB alias that you have set up in your client, or I use the connection properties. My database environment is on my local host.
So that's your IP address.
Correct, yes. And it doesn't have to be local. This could be, California, and I'm living in New Jersey. So it's just the IP address of your database server.
Okay.
And then you select your database, put in your username, password, test your connection.
And that's the password of the database.
Correct.
Okay.
So I want to save this. So now I have a Purescale endpoint that we're going to access.
So now that you've got your endpoint set up, what's next?
So now that I have my endpoint set up and I know what target I want to write to, we're going to set up a new task.
Okay.
New task in your toolbar window here. That's my task name. It's going to be a full load and apply changes. This is basically the CDC piece. It's going to be unidirectional and say OK. So over here on the left side is all of your source endpoints and targets.
And what's the difference between sources and targets for those who aren't that familiar?
Yeah, so the source is what you're going to be accessing. You have a bunch of tables you want to access and replicate to your target. So your source is where you're going to read from.
Okay, it's like the original.
Exactly. That's going to be your baseline. That's what you want to replicate. That's the data.
So in this case, our source is Purescale.
Yep. You can drag it or use the arrow. And we click on targets.
And are all these targets that are listed here and sources, are these kind of built-in default when you...
No. So that's the other key point here. When you're accessing your source and target environments, you have to have the client software already installed on the operating system that you're going to be using Replicate with. So whether this is Linux or Windows, you want to make sure you have the database software that you're going to use, the client software, to connect to the database. That just puts less load on the database, and we require that as part of the product implementation.
I love how it does this visualization for you.
Yeah.
It's great.
It helps. So from here, we want to go on table selection. We want to select the list of tables from our DB2 environment. You select the schema, whatever schema of tables you want to look for. You just do a search. So we'll get the employee table, copy it over. We can do inventory. We can do product. So I have 4 tables in my task. These are the tables I want to replicate to my Oracle environment. My Oracle environment is used by another team that runs reporting, however they want to use the data. We send it to them and we keep it live, active as what we have in our source. And from this screen, basically you just want to start processing.
So here it's loading the table, making a copy from source to target, and then going into CDC mode.
Yep. So this is the monitor tab in Replicate. So he's doing a full load. He said he's completed. These are sample tables, but if you have a table with 1 million rows or 200 million rows, this is where your transfer count's going to be. Now that the full load is complete, Replicate's going to switch into CDC because this is a load and CDC task.
One more time, what does CDC stand for?
Sure. Change data capture. I just want to demonstrate a couple points here specific to Purescale. You can use any of your applications. This is just an example. This is the employee table.
So this is a standard database admin tool to look directly at the source data?
Correct. So this will kind of give you a visual how Replicate works. I'm making some changes. I'll do one more.
Okay, so you're making a few changes to the database itself.
Right. This is the source system, the sample database that I'm connected to, which is Db2 10.5. He's a member of the Purescale cluster. So I just made some changes, and I'm going to commit the changes. Once I commit the changes to the source database, you're going to see what happens in Replicate. There it is. See the 4 updated on the employee table?
So walk us through exactly what happened there.
Sure. So in my source side, I'm just using a database administration tool. What I was doing was I was actually changing the data in the source system using this tool, and Replicate is keeping track of those updates. That's what this screen here shows. We did 4 updates on the source side. He got 4 updates to the target.
So it's keeping track of every change made to the data.
Correct, on those tables. So as an example, I'll use another table that I have to find. Data, edit.
This is kind of a wow moment to get to see it happen so immediately.
Right. If you missed it, I just deleted a row. So we were going to insert a row, some random value.
So you're saving those changes.
Correct. So as you can see, for the inventory table that we were just updating, we inserted a row and we deleted a row. Replicate's keeping track of that. This way, you're keeping your source and target in sync at all times, meaning the structure in your source and your structure in your target are the same.
And it's all happening instantly. It's all happening live, as you say.
Yep. So there's really not much manual intervention. That's the power of the tool.
So Bill, what happens if a task like this you set up fails?
Okay, that's a good question. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to force a crash of my task, and then we can go through the steps to recover.
Okay.
This is specific for Db2 Purescale.
We're looking at your list of tasks running on the system. You're forcing it to crash now?
Correct. Now watch what happens. This task is trying to recover because it crashed.
Okay, so it's giving you an error message there.
I go over to monitor.
The big things I'm picking up are the message on the far right with the big red X saying task stopped abnormally.
Correct. And I can say view logs. So this is actually what's happening to this task. He went into a recovery mode and he's trying to recover from the crash. It says running full load CDC and resume a recoverable error, retry 1. Replicates if something happened to the task, I'm going to recover.
Okay.
If he's not able to recover, then you have to manually recover the task using the steps I'm going to show. And if I go in here, and you remember I said recoverable errors? Here's the error handling. It's got a maximum retry count. It's infinite because it's -1.
So by default, it'll just always try and pick up where it left off.
Correct. Without any manual intervention. I'm going to stop the task because I have a recoverable error unlimited, so he's not going to crash. Even if the database goes away, when the database comes back, Replicate will try to come back online as well. We're going to stop the task.
So it looks like it's built not to fail, but we're in support, right? Sometimes bad things happen, and this is the process for a manual recovery.
You know, it's dependent on your source environment. You know, if there's a missing log file, connection issue, you know, different scenarios for a task to fail. And with Purescale, you have to know a few Db2 commands to get that information so you're able to resume your task.
All right, could you walk us through that?
Sure. You have to run a few Db2 commands to get it's called the LRI position within the log file that was being accessed.
Okay, so we've got a command prompt set up and you've taken us to that path. Which path is that?
Yeah, this is the Db2 administrative command window.
Okay.
I run this command window because I make sure I have all the Windows rights and permissions to run these commands.
Okay.
First command you want to run is you want to get the list of log files associated with your database. It's db2 pd-log-db and then the name of your database. It may take a minute to come back.
So that's just getting a list of all the logs from your database.
Correct. And it also gives you the log number that it's reading, which is important for the next command that we're going to run. This field here, current log number is number 85. See this? So I have 3 log files associated with this database instance. Now that I have the current log number, his starting LSN, this is the Db2 command to get the stream position within that log file.
So this will take us to the specific point where the fail occurred. So data-wise, we can just pick up where we left off without any loss of data.
Exactly correct. As you can see, it gave an lrirange between this value and this value. This is the begin. This is where it was. This is the value you want to copy, 34 bytes long. So you want to make sure you copy all 34 bytes. To make sure, just open an editor, 34 bytes. This is the value you need to resume your task that failed.
That's the exact position where it stopped.
Correct, within the log file. There's a internal parameter for the Db2 environment that you have to set with that value so he'll be able to pick up from that position. So you open up your endpoint.
Mm-hmm.
You can click on the Advanced tab, Internal Parameters, START from, there it is. This is the recoverable method for a Purescale task. Copy and paste, say OK. Don't forget to save the endpoint, close out. And now we're ready for this option, Advanced Run Options. With Purescale, you have to have that context value in the source endpoint. Even though it says the tables are already loaded, start processing from now. We're not going to use this value here. We're going to read the start from context from the source endpoint. That's why it was important to make sure you had the right value. I can just click OK, and the task should start. So now we'll do the same thing. We'll do a quick test. Delete a couple rows. Now they show up. See that? That was the steps to recover manually when your task fails in a Purescale environment. And if there was an issue with the LRI value with the stream position that we showed when I ran this command, we would have an error when the task started. One other tip as far as the Purescale environment goes. Once you have the task, it's been up and running for a little bit, you want to stop the task. We keep that stream position in the STS file that's associated with the task. Now that the task is okay, go back into the source endpoint, go back to your internal parameters and remove it. Say okay, save it. Now that it's saved, you can just do a resume processing. So resume is basically going to pick up where he left off.
Now those Db2 commands you used, where did you find those?
They're basic Db2 utility commands.
Okay.
Google's my best friend. If I need to know something, I usually just go ask Google. But I actually have links that'll be available for Db2 Purescale information. And there's also, I believe, some Db2 command stuff as well.
Just so everyone knows, we will include links to the resources mentioned along with the recording. So keep an eye out for that. Bill, we've talked a lot about the source side. What about the target? The tasks have been replicating to Oracle?
Let me connect to Oracle. This is basically SQL Plus. Password, this is my user. So if I do is select count from.
So what are you trying to demonstrate here?
I have 40 rows in my target.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the employee table.
That's your source?
Yeah, this is the source. 40 rows.
Yep.
I thought it'd be beneficial to see it on the target side.
Yeah.
So now both tables are in sync. Both tables are loaded. So anytime there's an update in this table, I mean, we could do one real quick. We can delete a row. So look, 39 rows. We can do the same command. 39 rows.
That's cool.
That's the power of the product. That's the change data capture. We keep track of your changes, keeping your source and target in sync.
Okay, now it's time for some Q&A. Please submit your questions on the left side of your ON24 console. Bill, which question would you like to address first?
Okay, looks like we have a first question. What is the default character set for replicate? Is it UTF-8? If so, where is it defined? Yes, the replicate tool, that's the default encoding character set, UTF-8.
Okay.
And it's really defined within the product. You don't have to set it anywhere. It's set automatically.
Great. Next question.
Okay. Does the connection to Purescale require a special license, or is it an add-on? No, as we discussed earlier in the presentation, Purescale is an add-on for Db2. So any of the licensing, I believe, would be on the Db2 side. Where replicate, as long as you have Db2 LUW as your source, I'm assuming Purescale, you wouldn't need a license for Purescale.
Is there, just to add on to that, Bill, is there a specific version of replicate that's necessary to work with Purscale?
Yes, you need to be running at least 6.6 of replicate. It might be 6.5, but we didn't introduce it until 6.5 or 6.6 of replicate.
Okay.
Next question. The user guide recommends that on Db2 server, the replicate user must have sysatom or Db2 or dbatom and data access authorities. Is there a way to limit this access? Good question, but no. The reason replicate user requires certain access because of where the data is being pulled from the logs. So if you don't have the proper permissions, we're not going to be able to capture the data from the transaction logs defined in Db2.
That makes sense.
And these are all documented in the replicate user guide as prerequisites before you set up a source endpoint. Okay, next question. Are there any data extraction limits for Purescale with replicate? No. I do not believe there's any data extraction limitations. I guess the question might be: is there a limitation on how many rows of data can you extract from Purescale with replicate? I do not believe there is a limit from a Purescale environment, but I can double check and get back to you.
Great.
Okay. Next question. After a task has been running for 22 hours, it fails with a Db2 connection timeout. Any idea what could be the problem? Okay, that's a good question, and this comes up a lot. Well, replicate is a database management tool where we're utilizing the connections you have in that environment to access your database. If there's a database issue, connection issue, replicate can't connect, we usually push the issue on to the DBA or the network admins, because we utilize the connections that are already there. So if there's a connection problem or a Db2 timeout, we usually get the DBA involved to help see what was happening on the source side when the connection problem happened.
Okay.
Is it possible to import existing tasks from an older version of replicate to a newer version that is installed on a different server? Great question. Comes up all the time because you have different environments, prod, test, development. So yes, it is possible. When you export a task, it's in JSON format, and you could take that export file, send it to your other environment, use replicate as to import the task. Your task is ready and live and ready to go. As long as you're accessing the same source and targets, that information is also defined in your task as your endpoint source and target.
All right, Bill, we have time for one last question.
Oh, here we go. We're planning on upgrading our replicate server soon. What version should you recommend we upgrade to? So currently, the current version is 7.0 with Service Pack 03, which is a service release, which is bundled of fixes, APARs, whatever terminology you use. That's the current version. That would be the recommended version to upgrade. If you're going from 6.5, 6.6, doing an upgrade in place, basically it's going to upgrade the current version you have installed. And it's always a great idea before you do any kind of upgrade is make sure you take a backup of the replicate data directory. That's where we store all the information for all your tasks that you already have set up in replicate. This way, if you have to fall back or fall back to the version you're upgrading from, you just basically bring back your data directory, start up replicate, you're good to go.
Great.
Thank you everyone for attending. And again, it was my pleasure. Hopefully the information I shared was beneficial. Take care and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. We hope you enjoyed this session. And thank you to Bill for presenting. We always appreciate getting experts like Bill to share with us. Here is our legal disclaimer. Thank you once again. Have a great rest of your day.